time? How many of you here aren't here for the first time? I had to get hands up somehow. If you're here for the first time, raise your hand again. Do we have any first timers? Put your hand up nice and high. We have a welcome gift for you. Let's welcome. We're going to get right into our first presentation. Waste coal burning plants. It's by our Energy and Environment Committee. You all got a handout? Donna, you ready?
Yeah, we did it.
Ready for the presentation?
Yeah.
You're up. You're first.
Ronnie, lights, just one of them. Yeah, that's good.
Thank you, Ronnie. My name is Don Vaught, and my wife, Mary Ann, is both of us are part of the Energy and Environment team or committee. Tonight we want to talk about waste coal. What is it, and what do we do with it? For many years, coal acquired by mining was the major source of energy in the United States. Particularly in Pennsylvania, these pictures remind us that not only was mining dangerous for hard-working men, but also for young boys known as bunker boys, who are working in the mines by age 12 and sorting coal with their bare hands outside the mines by age 8. Labor laws eventually changed this in 1916. Many of these mines have been closed, leaving a blight upon otherwise beautiful Pennsylvania's landscapes. Waste coal refers to usable coal material that is left over from coal processing or material that is captured during processing but would otherwise be considered refuse. Examples include anthracite coal found in eastern Pennsylvania, bituminous gob found in the Pittsburgh area, fine coal, lignite coal, coal recovered from a refuge bank or slurry dam, and coal recovered by dredging. The State Department of Environmental Protection estimates that there are 2 billion tons of waste coal covering 180,000 acres within Pennsylvania, shown on the map in red. Waste coals are the low energy value discards of the coal mining industry. Waste coal piles accumulated mostly between 1900 and 1970. The piles look like hills or small mountains that are dark and barren. We've all seen them, I believe. Hundreds of millions of tons of waste coal and rock litter the landscape in mining states. Why is it a problem? What are the negatives concerning this much waste coal to our state? Number one, the runoff from these massive mountains of waste coal piles leach iron, manganese, and aluminum pollution, causing acid drainage into neighboring streams, polluting them. These massive piles can catch fire, polluting the air we breathe with toxins. Aesthetically, these piles of waste coal destroy the natural beauty of our Commonwealth. The loss of 180,000 acres of land in the Commonwealth that could be developed for other purposes if this waste coal were removed. There are many dangerous pits and high walls that have caused the death of numerous of our citizens over the years. And finally, it is almost criminal to leave this efficient source of cleanable energy to destroy our landscape and harm our population. How can we get rid of these abandoned waste coal piles? This is a picture of a mountain of waste after it was cleaned up. For an energy company to make a profit, a gob pile needs to have relatively high energy and low sulfur content and be close to the power plant, generally within about 50 miles. The good news is that Pennsylvania is currently home to 14 power plants that burn waste coal. An example of a waste coal to clean fuels plant is the recently designed Gilberton, Pennsylvania co-production project. When completed, this plant will convert 4,700 tons per day of coal waste into 41 megawatts of clean electric power and over 5,000 barrels a day of ultra-clean transportation fuels. In addition, the plant will process about 1 million tons of coal waste per year from the Pennsylvania landscapes, removing pollution from our air and waters. These existing 14 waste coal power plants presently provide over 1,000 good-paying jobs while improving the environment and livability in countless cities and towns. Cogeneration plants produce almost 1,500 megawatts of electric power in the state, while another example, producing hot water for steam heat for the largest flower bulb growing greenhouse in the Northeast. This is a plant that we photographed on a trip we took 2 weeks ago. Located outside of McAdoo, just south of McAdoo, where Pennsylvania Route 309 meets Interstate 81. This is a 50 megawatt cogeneration station known as NEPCO. The plant is located in the eastern anthracite coal mining region of Pennsylvania. Steam from the plant is used in a 20-acre greenhouse setup used by Van Hoagland, specializing in flower bulbs. A large number of greenhouses can be seen behind the parked cars, and more can be seen in the distance. Located in Mount Carmel, a cogeneration facility is a 47.3 megawatt Foster Wheeler CFB boiler burning anthracite coal and selling electrical energy to the Pennsylvania grid. In addition, steam and hot water to the adjacent hothouse facility. Pennsylvania Senators Toomey, Republican, and surprisingly Casey, Democrat, had offered amendments to the Keystone Pipeline bill to exempt the subject power plants from the EPA's soon-to-be enacted emissions regulations. These are new regulations coming out. Senator Toomey has noted that these amendments exempt the waste coal power plants from the most prohibitive aspects of the new EPA regulations. These regulations could cause the shutdown of many of these plants in Pennsylvania and throughout our great country, thus causing more unemployment and a decrease in much-needed taxes for improving our infrastructure. These shutdowns would result in the loss of many, many jobs. Senator Casey has added that our waste coal plants are making huge contributions to our communities by creating jobs and protecting our environment. These plants save taxpayers billions of dollars and help Pennsylvania companies to continue to grow the economy while reducing environmental hazards. This also relieves our Commonwealth from the blight and hazard of abandoned coal refuge piles while enjoying cleaner water. Several members of Pennsylvania's delegates, including Representatives Kreitz, Altamar, Holden, Democrats, and Thompson, Barletta, Marino, Dent, and Schuster, Republicans, have been supportive of these proposed amendments. However, in the past few weeks, as all of you probably know, the amendments to the Keystone XL pipeline bill by Toomey and Casey have been voted down in Congress. And within the last 2 weeks, the pipeline bill itself has been vetoed by our president. I question the wisdom of tying the waste coal amendments to the pipeline bill. The question for us becomes what more can be done to save these 14 waste coal to clean energy plants. One thing we can do is to contact Senator Toomey's and Casey's offices as well as the offices of Dent and our individual Pennsylvania congressmen's offices, to demand relief from the EPA's scientifically unjustifiable and excessively restrictive emission standards. As I mentioned earlier, we are talking about over 1,000 jobs, a livelihood for a large number of family units. The number of indirect job losses would be staggering. This is a list of the congressmen and senators that have been supportive of the amendment. We've put together a sample letter that can be written up and sent into your senators, congressmen, or whatever. I believe we have a couple of fellows that
They're already out.
Oh, they're already out, okay. All right, well, that's fine then. Well, anyway, thank you for your time. I don't know if we have time for questions or not. Okay, if there's any questions, maybe we can do something later. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
My name is Tony Simeo, and I am the secretary of the Lehigh Valley Tea Party. And as of now, I'm hijacking the meeting so we can have some votes. So, as per tradition, every year, we have 6 people roll off of the committee, and they have the option, obviously, to run again or not. This year, we had 8 nominations for 6 seats. 2 of the people that were nominated decided that they would not run. They declined the nomination. Those 2 were Mr. Mike Shasuli and Mrs. Mojori, and we thank them for their consideration of being nominated. And 2 sitting board members decided not to run once again, and that is Dr. Christine Bongiorno and Mr. Dave Doms. I'd like to thank them personally for their service, and hopefully they will stay involved as they have been for years. So the 6 candidates are going to be Tom Campione, Ronnie Del Bacco, Joy Hemming, John Mattaboni, Jim Siverly, and Mary Ellen Stampone-Gino. Even though it's 6 people running for 6 seats, we forced them to come up here. Come up here. You have to come up here. And give a little 2-minute speech, basically, to why you should vote for them or why they should even be on the executive board to begin with. So, I have all 6 of their names written down, and to keep it fair, I'm just going to drop them in a little hat here. Mix them up. Just have you pull one. Lucky winner is Mr. Jim Silverly.
There you go, Jim.
2 minutes.
Well, I'll have to run through this pretty quickly. I prepared a top 10 list of reasons why I want to be on the executive board. So the reason number 10, I serve on the Energy and Environment Committee, and with me on the executive board, our committee will be better represented in our efforts to counter the preponderance of misinformation on climate change, natural gas, fracking, oil pipelines, and coal power plants. Reason number 10, I believe we are all created with skills and abilities to serve each other in a capitalistic free market environment. Therefore, I would support reforming or eliminating government programs that oppose the natural order that encourages individuals to be self-supporting and to take personal responsibility for themselves. This includes food stamps, welfare, unemployment compensation, Social Security, and the Affordable Care Act. Number 8, I would like our Tea Party to be more involved in tax reform and establishing principles that elected representatives from either party could buy into. I am for eliminating all deductions except for 2, incentives that encourage responsible birthing and adoption of children, and 2, incentives for expanding the workforce rather than policies that pick and choose winners and losers or force job layoffs. Reason number 8, I endorse efforts to require a voter ID so that only authorized U.S. citizens vote. Number 6, I endorse efforts to stop illegal immigration by removing the enticements such as mandatory health care and anchor baby citizenship. I realize some of these things are a little bit far out, but reason number 5, I support our Tea Party's efforts to hold elected representatives accountable to their constitutional oaths rather than whatever they have to say and do to get reelected. Number 4, I support our Tea Party's limited government resolution to eliminate deficit spending and reduce public debt. I pledge to encourage elected officials to work on promoting job growth, eliminating government waste, and greatly restricting entitlement programs. Number 3, I support our Tea Party's mission to educate its members, and I endorse communication, education, understanding, and seeking common ground as means of resolving situations where differences of worldviews and conflicts of interest threaten mutually beneficial outcomes. Reason number 2, I support the mission of our Tea Party and its emphasis on safeguarding our unalienable rights as delineated in the Declaration of Independence and the mission's emphasis on limited government intrusion on those rights as defined by our Constitution. And finally, the number 1 reason I want to be on the executive board of the Lehigh Valley Tea Party is I believe in the Tea Party's 9 principles and affirm the sanctity of our 12 values.
I make them pick the next victim. Mr. Ronnie Del Bacco.
Thank you all very much for nominating me. I'm running because you nominated me. I don't. That's the truth. I didn't seek the position. I don't have any designs on grandeur or fortune or fame or anything like that. I'm just very humbled that you all have enough confidence in me to nominate me again, and I really appreciate it. What I'd like to do, if you elect me again, is continue what we've started, which you'll hear a little bit later in the state of the LVTP. I've really enjoyed working on the board, and I'm looking forward to another good session with a great board. It's been the most productive board that I know of, as far as getting along and getting things done. Not just getting things done, moving forward. I'm going to stop right there and just again thank you for your nomination and tell you that's why I'm running, because of your confidence in me, and I really appreciate it.
Mrs. Joy Hamming.
Okay, I don't have 2 minutes. I'm a bottom line person. My name's Joy Hemming. I've been coming to the Tea
She'll be
Party.
short.
You didn't hear what I said in the beginning? I have to hold it? Okay. I've been coming to the Tea Party since 2009 because our government is really screwed up. I'm very conservative. I believe in limited government, and I believe this is the way to change the country. The Tea Party. Thank you.
Mr. Tom Campion.
Well, I've been vice chair. Okay, that's it. Actually, I'm running for board member because we get free donuts.
That's honesty.
Been on the board for a couple of years, vice chair for the past year. It's been great working with Ronnie and Tony and everybody else on the board. I do believe that we should continue doing what we have been doing, and that is educating members and community in general. But I'm also very excited about the possibilities of us becoming much more involved. I believe that we conservatives have been looking toward the primarily the Republican establishment, expecting them to change things, expecting them to listen to us and do what we would like to represent us. They do not. They will not. They're statists. It's up to us. I believe that everyone in this room really needs to become an activist. We need to recruit people. We need to get into the system, and we need to take the system over. And that's the only way that we're going to get our freedoms back.
Mrs. Mary Ellen and Gino Stampone. Stampone. Don't hit me.
This is a cool kid.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for this opportunity to speak. I've been attending meetings since 2013, after what I used to refer to as a chance meeting with someone who has since become very dear to me. But I've come to accept that all is within God's timing. Actually, it's a very interesting story. It involves a doctor's office waiting room and Mark Levin. Right here in this room, I've met at least a dozen people and reconnected with several others that I consider lifelong friends. And I seem to be making new friends every month. A little bit about me: my parents were blue-collar conservatives, but I like to refer to myself as a constitutional conservative. My deeper involvement with this great organization all started when Michael Gross began the Convention of States Liberty Amendments Committee. My interest lies in working for whatever we can do to limit the size and scope of government intrusion into our personal lives. I've certainly enjoyed the opportunity to express opinion for the Tea Party through the Lehigh Valley Commentator newspaper. Do you ever think, as I do, about those patriot farmers who fought and died for the birth of a new nation? Freedom is our inheritance, while we lose a little bit of liberty every day. If you remember Tom Campione's presentation last month, it concerned the direction this organization is headed and what each of us can do to create political change right here in the Lehigh Valley to end the status quo. I believe reaching out, engaging, recruiting our family, friends, neighbors, and especially young people is key. I pray for us to have the wisdom to know what to do and the courage to get it done. I don't have to remind you how we hear at every meeting, this organization needs volunteers. I've come to the conclusion that it's time for me to be the change I want to see. So if you're looking for a new board member with a fresh sense of passion and purpose, someone who's hungry for a positive change, it's me. Thank you.
And last but definitely not least, Mr. John Mataboni.
Uncharacteristically, I don't have a lot to say. Let's see here. I'm a member of the Tea Party and running for the executive board because I can't stand the thought of getting out of bed every morning and looking in the mirror and not knowing that I'm fighting as hard as I can to preserve and restore human freedom on planet Earth. I spent, I don't know, a good 8 years with the Libertarian Party back in New York, fighting for those very same things. But I see in the Tea Party a level of participation and success that I did not see with the LP. And while my philosophical leanings are still very much the same way, I love what's being accomplished here. And so that's why I'm running. Thank you.
Thank you, all the candidates. As a matter of housekeeping, there is 47 active members needed for a quorum. We have 52, and therefore we do have a quorum for the vote. Because there are 6 people running for 6 open spots, I will entertain a motion to have an in total voice vote. Mr. Bill Tunke makes the motion, and Mr. Barna seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Afterwards. All right, congratulations to, that wasn't the vote, that was to include them all together. All those in favor of accepting the 6 nominees to the executive board, say aye.
Aye.
All of those opposed, say nay. Congratulations.
I do. I do have a bylaws.
All right, so you also got a ballot on your way in if you are a voting member, and that is for an update to the bylaws in the section where it states that only elected executive board members shall be eligible for nomination, election, or retention of any office or position with the exception of secretary, per section 4.08 of the treasurer per section 4.09. Active members who are elected officials in a legislative or executive capacity or employed by such an elected official or political party in any activity, in any capacity, and previously would say shall be ineligible for any officer position or position on the executive board. The update that we want to make is with the exception of any elected school board, law enforcement, magisterial, or judicial positions. The reason for this change is because those are considered non-political positions. So for example, school board, they actually cross-file as do judges. They file as a Democrat and they file as a Republican on both sides. Therefore, they are considered non-political. Law enforcement positions that are elected are just that. They're law enforcement positions. They don't create law. They just enforce it. And so there are people that might be running for these positions or are currently serving these positions that might want to become executive board members, and that language actually allows them to be so. So if there's no further questions, we would have that vote right now. If you are for, actually let me pull out my handy dandy one. If you approve the bylaw change as it is up on the screen, you would check off yes. If you do not approve of the bylaw change as per the red underlined on the screen, you would choose no. And if you feel neither one or the other and want to abstain, you could just check the third one off. And once you're done, just if you need a pen, raise your hand and somebody will come with a pen. If you're done voting, just pass your ballots to the runners with the basket and just put it in the basket.
Raise your hand if you need a pen.
While that vote is going to be counted and they're collecting it, I'm going to ask that Chairman Ronnie Del Bacco come up and give his state of the LVTP. There's no music that goes along with that. It's just...
That's just a fancy way of saying I'm going to tell you what we've done. And by we, I mean all of us. Everything that we accomplished last year in 2014 has been a group effort, and you're all to be applauded. Bear with me as I read through these. I'm not going to elaborate because we're also going to have committee reports who will elaborate. They're in no particular order. What we've accomplished was a year of action. We had a bylaws review. We had a tax status review. We rolled out a new website. We also won a judgment against the company who basically stole our money from the first attempt at getting our website. The website is up and running. If you haven't been to it yet, it's www.lvtp.org, and it's very user-friendly. Please check it out. We've updated our record-keeping methods, and this is an ongoing process. As you know, some of you have had snafus with check-in, and we're working on fixing all that. Tony has been integral, and Tom has been integral in updating those systems and making them more professional and user-friendly. We had a big illegal immigration rally. How many of you remember that back in July? That immigration rally led to local attention from no less than 4 print publications, television coverage, online video coverage, radio coverage, and national attention from a DC newspaper correspondent, with sustained media attention on that issue for the next 3 months. It was our biggest rally. We had a Flag Day rally on MacArthur Road. We professionalized several shopkeeping procedures. We redesigned our logo. We're also going to work on t-shirts, updated t-shirts with the new logo. We redesigned our postcards. Remember the old postcards that said, "We're still watching"? When we decided to become active, we decided that the members of the House and Senate needed to see real quick and directly who they were hearing from. And so that's when we made the change to the Gadsden flag postcard, so that as soon as they got it, they knew what that message was going to be. We had LVTP pins made. By the way, you can purchase 2 for $1 in the back. And they're to get attention when we go places as a group or as individuals. I was just at a meeting last week unrelated to the Tea Party, and a person saw my pin and asked me about it. So they're working. It was Bill Tunke's idea, so credit where credit is due.
No,
Bill?
Glenn Costenbader.
Glenn Costenbader, sorry, Glenn's not here. I take it back, Bill. We applied for and were granted a small games of chance license. That's why you see Brian now doing the 50-50 raffles. We transferred ownership of our domain name from lvtp.org and Lehigh Valley Teaparty.org from an individual to a corporate account. We went to see Ben Carson. Who remembers that? We partnered with the Red Cross for community blood drives. By the way, there's a sign up in the back for our April meeting. So far, every month that we've done this, we've hit their goal and beat their goal. So sign up for April, and we're going to do it again. We participated in the League of Women Voters Political Action Seminar and Training. There were 8 of us. 8 people attended that, and we even got notice from Representative Schlossberg, Mike Schlossberg, an avowed progressive, and it was a very good compliment. He said, "Those Tea Party people know how to get their members active." So thank you, Mike Schlossberg. Community outreach through several Community Days events. The dedicated staff at the table back there, Dave Doms, he went to every single event. He set up, he tore down, he managed the inventory, and he did it without complaining and did it all year long, for 2 years in a row. We got a lot of communications from that, and you're going to be hearing about those numbers later. We supported en masse the WAEB Spaghetti Dinner for the Allentown Rescue Mission. We led the way on influencing Reps' decisions on energy and environment legislation. We led the way on influencing municipalities to repeal illegal gun laws for our Second Amendment Committee. We welcomed a new treasurer. You're going to hear from him later. We established a steering committee. We established a Veterans and Military Committee. We established a membership review committee. We streamlined the candidate overlap work into one committee. We established more common ground on issues with Democrat speakers. We secured a storage locker for the LVTP equipment and materials. We met with every Lehigh Valley elected representative for a first round of meetings. That's due to talk. We held the first successful honoring our veterans and military themed event last November. We developed a working relationship with youth organizations to bring the youth into the Tea Party movement, the Girl Scouts, the Boy Scouts, and the Civil Air Patrol. We began our advertising partnership with WAEB, excuse me. Conservative Talk Radio. How many have heard the ads now? This isn't a trick question this time, they're actually playing. I heard it 3 times this week myself. We committed to real support for legislative action to fix the PA pension crisis. That was Mr. Shooker and Representative Thomas Caltagirone. That's ongoing, and please keep up with the emails when we send them out, the updates. That's something that we'd like to stay on top of and lead the way with other Tea Party groups and let them know that they have our support, and we're really going to push to get the corruption out of the pension system. We officially launched the PA Freedom Network that allows us to link up with other like-minded groups and share information about events. We held a huge fundraising event for the Michael Strange Foundation. If you don't know who the Michael Strange Foundation is, please see me or Tom or Tony or Tom Carroll afterwards, and we'll be glad to tell you more about it. We packed the house for a special 2A presentation. We picnicked and we partied. And finally, we voted to untie our hands and become more politically active. Give yourselves a round of applause. That's a list of 2 pages of accomplishments that because of you and because of your volunteerism and activism, we've been able to accomplish in just 1 year. There's a lot more years ahead of us. What does all this mean? It means we started kicking ass and taking names. And we're not done yet. Thank you. Now, if I could have Ann Micus, Dave Doms, and Christine Bongiorno, please come up front. I jumped the gun on the treasurer's report. Mike Chisuli. You can add made a mistake to that list I just read you. Christine, we just want to present you with the recognition of appreciation for your service on the board and your dedication to the group. Mike Chisuli. We don't have anything for Mike. We don't have anything for Mike. We just wanted to laugh at him up front. Same thing. We want to give Mike a certificate of appreciation. Mike has been a member since the very beginning and has served on the board almost the whole time. He chairs our Illegal Immigration Committee, and he does a great job. Thank you, Mike. Thank you. Dave? If you don't know how much Dave does, then you're not paying attention. Like I said before, Dave has, for 2 years, dedicated himself to that merchandise table, to bringing it out to all the community day events, setting it up, taking it down, and in most cases, staying there the entire day. He's at every meeting, he's at every board meeting, and he hasn't ever complained, and he's done a fantastic job. I don't know of a more dedicated volunteer commitment to a particular project that he took on that Dave has done with the merchandise table. Thank you, Dave. And I'll turn the meeting back over to Tony.
About to have a little John Boehner here.
That's dangerous.
It's okay. I am back up here to give you the steering committee report.
Do you want a clicker? Do you want a
you
clicker?
can go ahead. Steering committee had a quick start. The committee was formed at the January 2nd, 2015 general meeting. The primary mission of the steering committee is to ensure that all political actions taken by the LVTP align with our core values and are intended to benefit the community. There are 9 seats on this committee, rotating 4 and 5 annually. Since the committee provides critical political advice and planning, it has been decided that all committee members must be approved by the executive board. The executive board has approved merging of the candidate action committee and the steering committee since their functions overlap. Committee members will select a co-chair or a chairman within the next few weeks. The 2015 plan is to identify all candidates of both parties who are seeking office in Lehigh County for Lehigh County Board of Commissioners and Northampton County Council. Develop a questionnaire and distribute it to all candidates. All responses to the questionnaire will be made available to the LVTP membership and the public at large. The steering committee will review responses and select the best candidates, up to 4, who will be invited to speak for a few minutes at our April 3rd meeting, allowing them to introduce themselves, request campaign volunteers, and request campaign donations. After the April 3rd meeting, we will send out 1 or 2 more emails to paid members expressly advocating the election of those who were invited to speak at the meeting. The steering committee is advising that we not endorse a candidate for this particular election, since we are just starting down the road of political activity and timeframes are very tight. The committee feels that it does not have sufficient opportunity to do the necessary groundwork for a carefully considered endorsement vote. Our goal for this primary election is to help those candidates who are the most dedicated to individual rights, limited government, and fiscal responsibility to emerge as their party's nominees heading into the general election in the fall. And next, I will have Mr. Brian Eichfeld of the Events Committee.
All right. Oh, there it is. Oh, wow.
Hang on.
Nice.
Coming.
I'll tell you, I printed out. I don't even need the printed copy. The Events Committee. Basically, it's me. Wow, 30 seconds already. We throw parties, you know? It's a good time. We need to start doing some more things, though, besides the parties and the pig roast. So I want to see us do more movie nights and bus trips and whatever other ideas we have. And we want to do some more fundraising, too. So let's go to the next screen. This year's activities, and I included this last party, too, just because this. And, you know, we had pretty good profits on the events, and I've heard pretty good feedback. Everybody had a good time. So that's one of the main purposes of these things is to have a good time. So I think we did well, and we made some decent money for the tea party. Next slide. But I need help. Since I've been on the school board, I kind of feel like I haven't been doing as much with this group or this committee as I did when we first started. I mean, you know, I was responsible for organizing the 828. We got all the buses down there. We did all this other stuff. But with the time of the school board, I've just kind of pulled back and just doing the parties and a couple movie nights. So I really need your help. So I've got Eric over there. He's running around with clipboards, but bring it up the front. Eric, right up the front and start and move them back. Love for you to sign up, and maybe I should rename the committee the Fun Committee, because it is. We do a lot of fun things, and Eric, go to the other side. And then, you know, we can really get some stuff going. I'd love to see more bus trips. maybe down to DC, Gettysburg, those kind of things. Not to do a rally, but just to go out and do some tourism. We did the Philadelphia trip a long time ago. It was a lot of fun. So that's what I'd love to see. I'd love to see folks sign up to join the committee so we can get stuff going. Now, the other side, the 50-50. You're all waiting. So I got the figure while I have the microphone, we'll just do it this way. We had $160. So $80 is the prize. And I'll have Tony pick the. All right. Now the numbers are, some numbers don't line up. I had two things of tickets, so don't freak out if the first numbers don't match your thing. 159, 118. All right.
Yay!
Cynthia. So please sign up and thank you for your, there you go.
Thank you very much, Mr. Eichfeld. Next, we have Community Days, which is chaired by Mr. Glenn Constanbader. However, he is not here, so Ronnie Delvaco will give that presentation.
You'll be sick of hearing from me soon. You want it, David? Okay. Dave is going to give the presentation. You can put down 2 mistakes on that list.
What are community days? First and foremost, community days are a lot of fun. We have merchandise such as clothes, books, pins, flags, magnets, license plates, and free handouts like our Liberty tracts and pocket constitutions. It's the same deal like the setup we have in the back of the room every month with the monthly meetings. The difference is we go to the general public through various community events in the Lehigh Valley. We get donations for any merchandise that people are interested in, and we interact with the public and answer any questions that they may have about us. We also provide a sign-up sheet for those interested to get on our email list or in order to contact them if need be. Anybody who has ever helped at a community day event, please stand up. Or just raise your hand, it doesn't matter. Yeah, right, okay, yeah. And you can sit down, thanks. I'm sorry, I lost my place. So yeah, any of those people that you saw that had been at community events, you can ask them any questions if you're thinking about volunteering, because we need volunteers for these community events, because there always has to be at least 2 people manning the table at these community day events, and at least one of them has to have done it before. So if you have any questions, ask me or any other people who have done it before. Like I say, they always have to have at least 2 people, so we need a lot of volunteers because there's a lot of events throughout the year that will need volunteers. Not only are we counting on those who have helped in the past, but we need new faces as well. I would really like to see everyone in this room do at least one community day event. The reason I say this is because I know you will like it once you've tried it. They are fun. These are the community events we plan on doing this year. Whitehall Historical Society Flea Market, May 16th. Cement and Fair, June 22nd through June 27th. So that's like 5 days. We're going to need 2 people every one of those nights. And that's great. That's a fair, you know, carnival and all that. You can have lots of fun. Nazareth, that's Cementon Fair. And, Nazareth Days, that's July 18th. Northampton Street Fair, September 12th. Eagle Arms Gun Show at Wind Gap, September 26th and 27th. Bath Community Days, October 3rd. North Catasauqua Autumn Fest and Car Show. I like that. I like to go to car shows. That's October 11th. Eagle Arms Gun Show at Wind Gap, November 28th and 29th. So again, please consider helping us out with Community Days because we can't do it without you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Doms. There's actually a sign-up sheet with Mr. Bill Antrim in the back. If you could raise your hand, Mr. Bill Antrim right there. So if you want to sign up to volunteer at one of those events, they're actually really fun. And it actually shocks you at how many conservatives there actually are out there because they'll come and see you, have a little conversation with you. They're fun. Next, we have a speaker committee which is chaired by Mr. Lynn Patnod.
Good evening. As mentioned, my name is Lynn Padnode. I chair the speaker committee. We have a rather small committee consisting of Paul Saunders and Diane McKee. And our purpose is to try to bring the most interesting speakers we can find. And usually we assign one member to be the main contact for this speaker. So they handle the emails, the phone calls, and then we get involved in marketing. We help out in that area, and our goal is to try to bring you folks back because you keep hearing some really outstanding speakers. Now the action committees are assigned a month in the ensuing year, so they fill up several months of speakers. It's their responsibility to provide a speaker. But that leaves a lot of months with no speakers, and that's where the speaker committee comes in. And these are some of the highlights that we've had in the past. In July, we had our biggest turnout. Peg Luxick came in and talked about Common Core. We did a lot of marketing on that. We contacted every school board member in the Lehigh Valley. And as a result, we had, I think, 220 people was the official head count. And Hayden Phillips, who was on the speaker committee at that time, was the main contact for Peg Luxick. And then December, John Felmy from API, he was brought in from Paul Saunders, and he talked about the energy revolution that's going on with fracking and the great changes in the dynamics of the energy market. As mentioned before, in January, Richard Schuker and Tom Calgarone came in and talked about the corruption that's going on in the pension funds. Now everybody knows this great tsunami is coming about the pension funds and how the taxpayers are going to be hit. But what you don't know about, if you hadn't been there to hear this talk, is the amount of corruption that's going on in the running of those funds. And finally, last month, Gary Biller came in from the National Motorists Association, NMA, and he gave a very interesting talk about your rights as a motorist. And if you never knew the facts about when you're pulled over, what your rights are, and so forth, if you join the NMA for $27, I think you'll find it a pretty good investment. So that's about my summary for the speaker committee, and I'll turn it back to Tony.
Thank you very much, Mr. Patnode. And again, if you want to volunteer for that committee, I'm sure they'd be happy to have you, and you can just see Lynn. Next, we have Illegal Immigration Committee, which is chaired by Mr. Mike Shasuli.
Good evening. My name is Mike Trezulli. I'm the head of the, or the chair of the Immigration Committee. The plans and goals of this committee are to gather and access information pertaining to the immigration initiative. Promote through education the use of legal avenues of immigration and bring to light many government work visas available as well as all the other programs. Did you know that they calculate 40% of illegal immigrants are here due to overstays, obviously a broken system, and that kind of stuff needs to be exposed. We support legal immigration and have admiration for those that enter the country legally and pursue citizenship. However, we also gather and assess information and take a serious look at the costs of illegal immigration and the drain on our social programs, medical facilities, educational systems, and our law enforcement resources. We maintain a moral, honest, and comprehensive discussion to weigh the pros and cons of our present immigration policies and its effects on the economy and the security of our nation. A lot of what we do is a joint effort. We're a really small committee, and we're all out here begging for members, but we're a really small committee. If you want to help somebody who needs help, we're the ones. But we all work together well and use our resources available. This year, the Tea Party group enjoyed guest speaker District Attorney John Morganelli. We attended Kids Peace program. Mr. Ronnie Del Bacco talked about that earlier. Some of these things are overlapping. In conjunction with the protest coordinators associated with the Lehigh Valley Tea Party group. We've attended roadside sign holding protests. We also distributed immigration information in a flyer form to our group here, and we've had several pieces published in Otto's Conservative News Commentator. Looking forward, we'd like to continue the good fight, gathering, assessing, and distributing information on illegal immigration and the abomination of amnesty. Our committee is presently working on a guest speaker, U.S. Representative Lou Barletta in May. We often hear talk of executive orders concerning amnesty and immigration on the immigration front lately. Remember, the president also issues presidential memorandums. If you want to see what that looks like, I've got a memorandum up front here that he cut a couple months ago. And it is about creating welcoming communities and fully integrating immigrants and refugees. Some of my notes from the one side bled through onto the other side here. Our small committee consists of myself, my wife, Joy Hemming, and we meet monthly, the last Wednesday of the month at the food court over at Wegmans, located on 248, near where Route 33 intersects, just north of Route 22. And that's it.
Just as an aside, I actually go to his meetings as often as I can, which isn't very often because I have so many things that I do. Going to his meeting actually challenged me to write a resolution which was passed at the winter meeting of the PAGOP on immigration. And it actually passed unanimously, and every single congressman in the state, every single state representative, state senator got a copy of that resolution that we as conservatives are for legal immigration. Anyhow, the next committee is going to be the Energy and Environment Committee, and it is chaired by Mr. Paul Saunders. However, he could not be here tonight, and Mr. Tom Giori will speak on his behalf.
Thanks. Yeah, Paul asked me to actually make an announcement. I think he's going to present the report next month but he wanted me to make this announcement because it's timely. We are hosting a 2-day class titled Atlas Shrugged, Protecting Freedom in America, presented by author and professor of philosophy Andrew Bernstein on March 12th and May 9th. This will not be a boring drudgery of your government schooling, but rather a fun experience that will inspire and teach you the ideas and principles to become a powerful intellectual warrior in the war to save this nation. Since this class is not a lecture, enrollees will be raising questions and getting answers continually as the class proceeds. The class structure will be one day, day one, introduction, the prophetic nature of Atlas Shrugged, why philosophy is important, the literary genius of the book, a start on the philosophic ideas and principles necessary to lead a successful, fulfilled, happy life, and 2, to be an effective warrior for American liberty. On day 2, Dr. Bernstein will continue building and integrating your knowledge of the ideas, principles, and intellectual weapons hidden in Atlas Shrugged. And finally, he will conclude with a discussion of the philosophic principles needed to restore individual rights and protect freedom in America. Above all, this will be a fun time. Those attending these 2 all-day classes are going to have a great deal of fun immersing themselves in literary and philosophic genius of one of the greatest novels ever written. So come and join in this fun experience. You can find the sign-up information on the Tea Party website homepage under the Atlas Shrugged tab. Thank you. Oh, yes.
I think slip of the comments, I think it's April 12th. You said March.
Oh, yes. Yes, it is. It's April 12th and May 9th. Those two. It's on a weekend, too, Saturday and Sunday. Yeah, we had to change the day because it was on Mother's Day, so they changed it to Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jory. Next, the committee is Individual Rights, and that is chaired by Mrs. Ginny Tabor.
Every day, the noose is tightening on our freedom to live our lives according to our own personal, sorry about that. Can you hear me now? Okay, that's better. My husband complains I don't speak loud enough for him to hear most of the time, so I need a mic. Okay, I'll start again. Every day, the noose is tightening on our freedom to live our lives according to our own personal desires and values. The concept of individual rights is lost in our culture, and the purpose of the Individual Rights Action Committee is to restore it. Now, we've prepared a handout which outlines the history and nature of individual rights and lists what we need, why we need them, and when and how they are violated. We also prepared, we are also prepared to examine legislation for individual rights violations and to help other committees to understand and to present these violations to our elected officials. All they have to do is ask us. We have prepared a handout on collectivism. It is alive and well in the U.S. today, and collectivism is the death of individual rights. Now, last June, we presented a program on the major role that property rights play in guaranteeing individual rights. Now, these handouts are on the back table. You may have picked some up earlier when you came in, and be sure to pick up on the way out if you missed it on the way in. To understand individual rights correctly, the most important distinction we must make is that a right is the freedom to act, not the freedom to receive something that somebody else has produced or provided. Remember that the Declaration of Independence states that our unalienable rights are life, liberty, property, and the pursuit of happiness, not happiness guaranteed by the government. Each of us survives by thinking and then producing the things we need, or by trading our services for the products we need. We must be free to do this because our survival and happiness depend on it. Now think of the millions of government regulations that slow down and prohibit this vital activity. When the government tells us what and how to run our lives and our businesses and requires thousands of pages of paperwork to get permission to open a business and sets minimum wage and working condition requirements, we are not free to live our own lives. Later this evening, we will present a short discussion of counterfeit rights. In August, we will present an in-depth discussion of the absolute necessity for freedom of speech. Now, on the table in the back there is a sign-up sheet and to join our committee. We do need help, as all the committees seem to need. And I promise that you will learn more about individual rights in addition to being able to help to restore them in the culture. So please sign up at the end of the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Tabor. Next up is Second Amendment Committee, which is chaired by Mr. Vice Chairman Tom Bag of Donuts Campion.
Hey, bag of donuts.
Okay, so Second Amendment Committee, our general strategy, he's already got me stopping. He gave me a timeout, time's up sign already. We work closely with two statewide organizations, FOAC, which is Firearms Owners Against Crime, and PA4SP, that's Pennsylvanians for Self-Protection. They each develop their own legislative agenda and goals, and so then what we do is we look at those and we select which ones we're going to help execute here in the Lehigh Valley. We add to this our own always present standing goals and our specific annual goals. So, looking back at 2014, what have we accomplished? We tracked and educated the community on the Erie 8 case, which was a case of 8 people who received citations for carrying firearms in a park in Erie, even though cities are prohibited from regulating firearms possession. We tracked and educated on the UN Arms Trade Treaty. We attended multiple rallies in Norristown to counter rallies by Ceasefire, PA. We attended Falls Township, which is in Bucks County, on March 4th, public meeting to support Pennsylvanians for Self-Protection in a preemption matter. We helped sell tickets to Friends of the NRA dinner banquet. We attended the Second Amendment rally. That was Second Amendment Action Day, sorry, a bus trip to Harrisburg where we rallied for an hour and then lobbied the rest of the day. And I have to tell you, I'm really happy that we did that. Gordon Santee and his brother Bruce came with us that day. It was the weather was absolutely horrible. It was April, but it was cold and it was raining. And we met in Taylortown early in the morning. We didn't get back until 5 in the afternoon. Gordon and Bruce stayed up with us, hung there walking the halls of the Capitol back and forth all day long, never took a break. In addition to that, we requested 100 copies of 2 different state firearms publications and distributed those at community days. We developed position papers on open carry of long guns and on mental health checks. We co-hosted a major Lehigh Valley event, Extortion 17, that's the Michael Strange event, which featured talk by the parents of Michael Strange, a SEAL Team 6 warrior who was killed on August 6, 2011. We distributed nearly 1,000 petitions that said, "Stop violating my Second Amendment rights." And we also distributed a comparison of Wolf versus Corbett. I think Wolf is spelled wrong there. That's okay. We began to make ourselves known to various lawmakers in the Valley, in key positions in Harrisburg. We met with at least 15 senators and 20 different House reps to let them know that the Second Amendment Committee of the Lehigh Valley Tea Party is an active group. We distributed petitions for House Bill 80, which became enacted as 192, and that's what all the hoopla is going on right now with these municipalities having to repeal their local gun ordinances. We developed a trifold brochure. I meant to bring one up here with me, but it's basics of Pennsylvania firearms law. And what we're doing is we're putting in an acrylic trifold holder, and we're taking these and we're bringing them out to gun stores and ranges. A few people are helping us, and we're selling those to gun stores. We're following up on Act 192. We were very involved with Allentown. They've repealed their gun laws, and that's primarily because of a letter that they received from this Tea Party. Our standing goals, we reinforce at every turn the fact that the Second Amendment protects our individual right to defend ourselves from criminals, tyrants, or anyone else who might threaten our lives or freedom. We reinforce with all gun owners that they need to know the firearms law. We track pending state and federal legislation. We engage the gun owner community, and we expect to expand the Second Amendment Committee and encourage Tea Party paid membership. We raise money for the Tea Party in order to effectively promote our cause. 2015, we plan to attend and promote Second Amendment Day, host at least one major public event that appeals to gun owners. We'll provide materials for community days again. We'll organize a full auto day. What we'll do is rent a range here in the Valley and have roughly 100 full auto firearms for rent. It should be a good day. We'll penetrate the no politics barrier at gun clubs. We start a community Facebook page, actually that launched today. And lastly, we plan to, in this very room, starting next month, hold gun raffles. What we're going to do is we're going to sell tickets, $10 a ticket, and we'll sell 100 tickets and then draw a winner. Now, we're probably not going to sell 100 tickets at a given meeting. It might take 2 or 3, but we'll draw a winner, and that person gets the gun. Yeah. If you're interested in this committee, come on out to the Borderline, first Monday of every month, Borderline Restaurant, 7 o'clock. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Tom Bang Bang Campion. Busy man. Next up, we have the Rally Committee with none other than John Mataboni.
Thank you. Here at the rally committee, we are in charge of being unreasonable, loud, and surly. Unlike these other committees, I am not going to ask for volunteers because I like running it as a one-man dictatorship. I am very hard on my one member, me, and if I don't lighten up soon, I'm going to file a grievance against myself. Okay, what do we got up here? I like this one, so I had him put it up. We started running these WAEB radio ads that I was lobbying for probably well over a year. They accidentally let one run early on February 9th. It ran one day for 15 seconds, and within 72 hours, we started receiving hate mail. You got that one up there?
Mission accomplished.
Ah, okay, there we go. I went 3 days later, and I got something addressed to the Lehigh Valley Pee-Pee Diaper Party Group. Okay? So apparently, we struck a nerve. That's the point of these ads, is to let people know that we're alive and kicking and have teeth. Okay? The interior of this thing was even more hilarious. All kinds of you un-American, unpatriotic corporate lackeys, blah, 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 blah. Take money to the next one. Okay, all of this insanity over here, and then just a little bit more just to round it all out, you know, Viva, Occupy Wall Street, and so on and so forth. So, the ads, in like I said, 15 seconds, in one morning of one day, we drove somebody batshit. Okay? That, I'll pay all year long for that. Okay? I wanted to take a quick moment here to thank all of the $100 contributors. I'm not going to name names because there was a good number of them. I think there was about a dozen. Some of you others have contributed money by mail. That is appreciated as well. We will be changing the message from month to month. I don't know if you've heard it yet, but we'll change it from month to month, and we're thinking of putting together one that will run just before the monthly meeting to encourage people to show up and attend a meeting as well. We may use it as well for rally notifications, just to kind of draw, to have the general public join us in our protests and our rallies. Okay, well, briefly, I'll mention the postcards. We changed the postcards last year, and like Ronnie mentioned, the reason for doing so was that any politician could see that postcard from 30 feet away and know exactly what it was about without having to read it whatsoever. And that's really, that kind of icon, that imagery really resonates and hopefully strikes fear into the people who receive them. Let's see here. Rallies for last year. We had a nice Flag Day rally at the mall. Thank you for everyone who showed up. That was a terrific one, as a matter of fact. Ronnie put together the immigration rally at Kids Peace. That one went over really well. We got some national attention actually on that one. And then we had a smaller illegal alien protest at the shopping plaza at 248 and Route 33. Just quickly, our rally plans for 2015 are a little bit amorphous at this point, but our first one is scheduled for April 18th. If you go on the calendar on the website, you'll see all of the details. I am not releasing where the location is going to be until we are until the rally, just before the rally happens, because especially if we're going to be advertising this on the radio, I do not want to tip off counter protesters as to where we're going to be. So anyone who is interested in participating in these rallies, please go to the website. You'll find something about the rally on April 18th. There on the calendar, you'll click to send an email to rally@lvtp.org. Send me your personal information or just your email address if you'd prefer. And then just before the rally, I'll shoot an email out to everyone, let you know where we're going to meet up and how it's going to proceed. Let's see here. We're probably also going to do one on Flag Day at the mall as we did last year. That will be Probably June 13th or 14th. The Flag Day this year actually falls on a Sunday. I'm not sure if people want to do it on a Sunday or if they want to do it on a Saturday, but we'll figure that out. And then we'll shoot for one in late August and one again in October. As Ronnie and I talked briefly about this, we have a big opportunity coming up the following year because in 2016 the Democratic National Convention will be held in Philadelphia. We will be in attendance. Okay, I'm also thinking of putting together 2 or 3 man hit squads that can run around the valley with signs that are not necessarily part of an organized larger rally, but we can get out there for a couple of hours at an intersection, and get some signage and get some publicity that way as well. So please go to the website, look for the rally information, and I'll be making this announcement again in the April meeting, just before the rally happens. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mattaboni. And next we have Mr. Michael Gross, who is the chair of the Liberty Amendments Committee.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Michael Gross, and I chair the Convention of States Liberty Amendments Committee. I'm just wondering, how can I go after John Mattaboni? That's pretty tough. That's a pretty tough thing to fill. Frankly, I started this in the fall of 2013. I was a lone soldier when I first started. No one had the slightest idea what this whole Convention of States is or where it was going. And fortunately, we put together a committee, and I owe a lot of thanks to Ann and Bob Mickus and to Mary Ellen in Chino. And what we did was last year for 2014, we met on a monthly basis. We analyzed the entire Mark Levin's book, and we analyzed the Convention of States handbook to get us on a level that when people who were not familiar with the Convention of States, we would be able to answer questions and give some sort of guidance. We attended the Christian Home School Convention. The Convention of States had a booth in Harrisburg last fall, and we attended. There were people from 5 states. We did a number of Dave Dom's community event days. We had participation. We very limitedly met with a couple of the Lehigh Valley legislators. I hope this year that we get to meet all of them. And we also, early this year, we attended the debate, all of us, between the John Birch Society and the Convention of States people. And that was a very interesting debate, and it was highly spirited. One of the things that I had suggested to the Convention of States is that to stop using that name, Convention of States, because the opposition is purposely trying to confuse the American people, that there's going to be a gun convention, they're going to rewrite the Constitution, they're going to turn around the Second Amendment, and to be honest with you, none of that's going to happen. And remember, everybody, a pen and a telephone will do the job. They don't need a COS, and you don't hear a word from the progressives about it. So let's take this very seriously. But for this year, we also, the Convention of States people, the gentleman's name is Steve Davis, who is the head of the Pennsylvania, he's the state director, and we're working very closely with him to try to coordinate a number of activities. We hope to have attendance at as many community events that we possibly can in 2015 to get the word out. One thing I'm very happy about is that the state legislature has finally started to take, they're actually working on it now in the House. The Senate is lagging behind, but it's a start. Where we had absolutely no one, now we have, perhaps 10, 15 legislators who are actually working on it. And it's not a bill, it's a one-page resolution that says that we want to have this meeting with the other states to propose amendments to the U.S. Constitution. And one of the things I'm really excited about is Mary Ellen in the next edition of the Commentator is going to have an article on this whole Convention of States, meeting of the states, and I've read it, and frankly, I'm really excited, and a number of people also gave a minor contribution to it. Members of our committee, Ronnie, Steve Davis, and I encourage everyone when it comes out to please read that. And once you read it, please get on the phone and just start nagging your reps and your senators to let's get this thing going. This really is, I mean, you really have to give credit to the founding fathers. They really got it, and this is our last hope. Because if we don't rewrite, I mean, you could actually see we had a landslide election. Nothing has changed in Washington. It's the same nonsense. So it doesn't matter whether you're a D or an R. Nothing is happening. And this is our last chance to make things right and to maybe save this country. So I'm very optimistic, and we're going to try to attend as many community events. We're going to try to meet with as many reps as we can in the Lehigh Valley, and we're going to try to work with the Convention of States people. And I think I'm going to add for the final thing, any people who would like to join our group, there's not really a prerequisite, but if you've read the book, Mark Levin's book, and you've read the handbook, then you pretty much know the game. Okay? And that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Michael Gross. Every time he talks, I think he's going to give me an offer I can't refuse. I love New York accent. The Support the Troops, which is headed by Mrs. Valerie Ferguson, she's not here tonight, so that is going to be postponed until April. She will give a report then. And Mr. Joe Barna is the newest chair of the new committee for membership review.
Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Okay. We had our first meeting of the Membership Review Committee. We were tasked with the project of looking at what the bylaws said about members and active members. And we wanted to, the board really wants as many active members as we can get. And it's you know, we're tired of sitting on our hands and just coming to meetings. We want some action. So what we decided to do is to look at what was written and see how we could change it to make it more exciting and more open to the membership. And we had our, like I said, we had our first meeting about a week and a half ago. And we had 8 members join us, and we discussed all the problems, all the ways we could stop or change the problems, and we came out with a bunch of new suggestions. And some of them started already, like making sure everyone here signs in every time they show up. We have developed a membership sign-in committee, which we're also going to change that a little bit because we have a new card system, a membership card system that was developed by Tom. And so we'll be using that, and we encourage everyone to make sure that we need to we want to get as many people as possible in the active mode. We have a lot of these committees going around, and we want to make sure everyone participates. You can participate by showing up at a meeting, attending a committee meeting, going to a rally, going to an event of some sort sponsored by the Tea Party. So there's a lot of ways to participate, and I urge you to join. We'll be having our next meeting on, that would be March 14th at Wegmans, and it'll be upstairs on Route 512. So I look forward to to that meeting, and we will have something for you people to vote on by the end of, well, within 1 or 2 months.
Thank you, Mr. Barna. And also newly created is the Veterans and Military Committee, which is currently being temporarily chaired by Mr. Ronnie Bilbacco.
We're way over time, so I'm going to make this quick. When we put together the FFE in November, the first Friday event in November last year, there was a lot of interest in doing something more for our veterans. So we decided we'd start the Veterans and Military Committee. The inaugural meeting had 7 members. Had 9 members. The inaugural meeting had 9 members. What we want to focus on is issues that affect our veterans and military all year long, not just platform once a year like everybody does. We want to make sure that we're working on issues for the clinic in Allentown. One of our members mentioned actually doing something very aggressive and pushing for a Veterans Hospital in the Lehigh Valley. But those type of issues, any legislation that's going to affect benefits, any legislation that's going to affect veterans and military, that's what this committee is for. You can go on the website. There's a Get Active link for any one of the committees. Click on that Get Active link. Send us a note. Tell us you want to join. Our next meeting is going to be March 14th at 10 o'clock, right after the Membership Review Committee. So please sign up. Let's show the younger veterans, our older veterans, all of our military that we care, and let's make this committee really work for them. Thank you.
All right, back to business. Thank you to all the committees and for your reports. The secretary does not have an annual report. However, due to time constraints in the meetings in January and February, I did not get approval for the minutes of those 2 meetings. So I would entertain a motion to accept those 2 meetings minutes as they have been posted online, as they are every month. Mr. Bill Tunke, motion. Mr. John Mataboni, second. And all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. And now it's the annual Treasurer's Report with Treasurer Ann Micas.
What are you doing, 2014?
I was going to do it in February. Well, I guess I ought to do it.
But I'm going to hijack the microphone. I want you all to stand up and give Ann a big round of applause for her hard work as chairman. Ann has a business. She sees a lot of people every day in her business. So we want to give Ann a Tea Party shirt in appreciation for her hard work that she can wear and talk about the Tea Party all year long at work. Thank you for your dedication.
Thank you. I like the long sleeve one. Okay, can you, is that?
I don't know, what do you want?
Well, I really just want to show the bottom half of this, or, so if you can move it up. Yeah, and, no, yeah, to the map. And I'm sorry, I didn't really realize it was the annual report. And we do have a spreadsheet which would show you, and I think we should next year, you should show the Excel report, which shows where all our money went all year. And I think we had, in fact, let me just give you a summary of that, of the Excel report. I think it would be worth it. We had an income for the whole year of $15,580, and we had expenses of $17,378. So you'll see up here, we had a loss in 2014 of $1,798. However, I think that's because we're one of the, this is the first year where we really spent money, because we were very active, and the website went up, and anyway, this summarizes for the whole year all our expenses and all our income. So we will put it on the website. And probably that's what we should be doing from now on. But anyway, I was just audited tonight, so we now have 6 names signed up here. In a good way, and we passed. So anyway, our total cash balance for at the end of 2014 was $4,204. And we will file our income tax now, and that's about it for 2014. I added this at the last minute because I was being audited tonight. Never before have we shown this report, but I think it's really interesting, and I think it would be interesting for the board to start looking at where we spend our money, because somebody said we had no advertising. We spent no money in advertising in 2014. Now we're doing it in 2015. So it's just interesting where you spend your money. Okay. And this is for February. Let's see. We collected $284 at the door. And Tom, I was going to do all of those. We had an anonymous donation for the League to pay for tuition for that League of Women Voters class. We did not use that, so did we?
I know the man who attended.
Well, I never paid it, so I got money in and I never paid it out, so. Yeah, so I should, somebody give me the bill. Okay. We received $1,425 this month. That's just this month for radio ads. Dues, $295. Donations. That donation is whoever won the 50-50 raffle last month gave us $86 that they won, and then we had another donation. We made $86 from the 50-50 rally. Tom Campione paid me for this leadership conference, so we got to pay it back out sometime, okay? We had a refund for the Cutler ticket. Okay, our expenses. We paid $180 for the room, and we tip $20. We paid our fees for the Northampton Street Fair. We paid for our speaker. We paid for the membership cards and buttons. We paid for the hats that we sell here. Our PayPal expense for when you pay on PayPal, they charge us a little bit. For the robo phone calls you receive every month, that was for 2 months. We've paid $800 so far. We owe more on the radio ads, and we had postage expense. And so our current balance is $4,369, and we have that money in the bank, in a cash drawer, and in PayPal. Is there a motion to accept the treasurer's report for February?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay. And I have 2 announcements. Is Dan Hess here? Okay. I have that, what you requested at the last meeting. And Bob, you want to stand up? So this is Bob Kronecki, and he's your new treasurer, and he will get signature authority on Monday. Yeah, so we'll go to the bank and do that. So, and I'm going to continue to be active in the Tea Party, and when I meet people and I wear stuff like this is what I say to them. You know, we talk about something and everybody feels like you can't do anything about it. And I say, there's always the Tea Party, And I really think that the Tea Party for me is a union for the middle class who isn't in a union, because you gotta fight them. They got everything. They got automatic deduction from their paychecks, and they've got what they've got. How much is Wolf going to raise our income taxes by? 1,400. But it's to what percentage was it? 20% or so was it? So, and so he could pay the educational association, and so anyway, I think we need the Tea Party. Thank you.
Thank you very much, former Treasurer Ann Micus, and welcome to the new Treasurer. Next, we will have the Individual Rights Committee give a short presentation on counterfeit rights.
So here we are again. The purpose, as stated earlier, of the Individual Rights Committee is to restore the lost meaning of individual rights in our culture. To do this, it is essential that each one of us understands just what kind of rights he is entitled to and what kind he is not. So let me ask, do you have a right to health care? No. Do you have a right to a decent home? No. Do you have a right to a minimum wage? No. Do you have a right to food stamps? No. Do you have a right to old age benefits? No. Do you have a right to cell phones and wheelchairs? No. Okay, so if you think about it, everything that man needs to have in order to survive and pursue happiness has to be produced or provided by someone. Clothes, houses, weapons, food, water, education, medications, etc. don't grow on trees. So what do you call someone who is forced to provide free goods or services for someone else?
Slave. Slave.
A slave, you're right, a slave. So don't let yourself be blinded to the fact that you, the taxpayer, are being enslaved by your government through taxes and by regulations and of hundreds of government agencies which dictate to you just what you can't do and what you must do. Remember George Washington's quote, "Government is not reason, it is not eloquence, it is force. And force, like fire, is a dangerous servant and a fearful master." Now, individual rights are your freedom to act for your life, liberty, property, and the pursuit of your happiness, not the freedom to receive handouts. Economic rights are counterfeit rights because they give the government the counterfeit right to enslave some people in the service of other people. Charity must be voluntary. Now, Tom Giori is going to amplify these principles with some concrete examples. Tom?
Running a little late here, so I'll try to be as quick as I can. As Ginny mentioned, any need can be falsely called a right. So how do you determine what is a valid right? There's two criteria. The first is freedom to act. Examples include like thinking, writing, traveling, worshiping, working, trading, protesting. Notice that many of these are listed in the Bill of Rights. The second criterion is that these actions must not violate anyone else's rights or force them to act against their own interests. For example, if you protest, you can't block somebody, traveling, because that interferes with their rights. So now I'll explain why economic rights are counterfeit rights, using two examples. First is healthcare. Healthcare is a service that someone must provide and someone must pay for. When the government mandates healthcare, it violates doctors' rights first, to practice medicine as they wish. When the government dictates the amount of profits that insurance companies and hospitals can make, as outlined in the Affordable Care Act, it limits the amount of money these companies can reinvest for research and development. Patients' rights are violated by not allowing them to choose the health care plan, the doctors, and the treatment that they want, as we discovered with Obamacare. Finally, it violates the taxpayers' rights by forcing them to subsidize other people's health care through new taxes, through higher insurance premiums, or fines for not complying with the law. And everybody's finding out that this is the case. The second counterfeit right I wanted to talk about, it's in the news a lot, is the minimum wage. In a free market, wages are set by the law of supply and demand. Minimum wage is a government-mandated wage distortion that breaks this law and causes many problems. First, it violates a businessman's right to freely operate his business by forcing him to pay labor costs that are above the market price necessary to produce the goods and services. Artificially elevated wages cause higher unemployment, especially for entry-level employees. Young, inexperienced workers are disproportionately denied the right to be productive by the inability to offer their labor at a wage that would be acceptable to both themselves and potential employers. So the very people that they're trying to help are the ones that are going to be suffering. And finally, minimum wage forces consumers to pay higher prices for goods and services, which in turn decreases the demand for the products, resulting in inflation, unemployment, and an overall depressed economy. To summarize, life requires that each of us think and act to produce the things that we need to survive and prosper. Individual rights are the freedom to act to accomplish this. Economic rights are counterfeit because they force individuals to act against their own interests in order to provide them. And in conclusion, as Tea Party members, we must make the effort to understand these types of principles and then remind our government to protect our individual rights instead of violating. Thank you very much. And if anybody is interested in the Individual Rights Action Committee, we meet on the third Thursday of the month, 7 o'clock at Ginny's house. Thank you again.
And I hear there's cookies.
Donuts.
They have a table of literature.
Yeah, they also have a table in the back that they have a table in the back that you can sign up, and there's a lot of literature, obviously, because it's a very important. Individual rights is one of the most common rights that we all have, and so there's a lot of information on that. Now, we're almost done, I promise. The vote results. Somebody actually squeezed in at the very last minute, so we actually had 53 voting members, not 52 as I stated before. And the vote was 51 yes to change the bylaws, or to update the bylaws with that one line, to 2 no, and therefore the bylaws have been updated. In conclusion, I know that this is probably the most boring meeting of the year. It has to happen per our bylaws, so that you stay up to date as to what happened and what will happen in the coming year. And from all of us on the executive board, on all the chairmen on the action committees, we wanted to thank you because this isn't really about us, it is about you. Without all the members, we wouldn't be here and wouldn't be able to do what we do. So with that, I'd like to present a short video, and then afterwards I'll come up here and we'll get a motion to adjourn. Thank you.